This is a podcast from BFM 89.9, the business station.
BFM 89.9, good afternoon. I'm Roshan Kanasen, and you're now listening to Enterprise Explores, the show where we help you navigate the ever-changing universe of business, money, and technology from the headlines to the bottom line. A new report from Kaspersky has raised the alarm over a massive surge in cyber attacks, with over 6.1 million attacks detected in just 6 months, linked to the rising trend of polyworking among Gen Z. Now, polyworking, or juggling multiple jobs and gigs, is exposing both individuals and organizations to a wider digital attack surface than ever before. And the report highlights dangerous habits like poor password hygiene, device overlap, and unmanaged apps, opening doors to cyber risk. So, what exactly is polyworking, and why is it creating such a perfect storm for cybercrime? To help us dissect this critical emerging threat, we have Sia Fong, founder and executive chairman of LGMS. We'll also talk about the risks for businesses and proactive steps to keep your cyber hygiene intact. CF, it's good to see you again. How are you doing?
Thank you, Roshan. It's good to be back. I'm doing well. Thank you.
So, as I've just mentioned, there are some big data points, CF. Tell us, what exactly is polyworking and why is it a big issue?
Well, polyworking is really about how young workers, especially the Gen Z or Gen Z, are juggling multiple jobs or side hustles at the same time. So instead of just having one employer, they might be freelancing, providing some kind of consulting, or run even a small business alongside with the main job, maybe driving Grab or whatnot. So it gives them the flexibility, but also means that they are logging onto many different IT systems, IT apps, programs, and exposing themselves to more risks online. So this is going to be the trend.
And that is what provides this wider attack surfaces for organizations. Is that right?
Absolutely. Just think about it. If one person may be using their office laptop, their personal phone, or maybe even a shared tablet at home, so each of those devices connects to different networks and running different apps. For example, connect to home Wi-Fi, even sometimes cafe hotspots out there, in the public or co-working space. Now, all these overlapping connectivities and app usage creates many more doors for hackers to knock on.
So maybe could you tell us a little bit more about why a polyworker's digital life is then more inherently susceptible to cyber attacks?
Of course, if you look at it, right, if as a polyworking worker, you are exposed to multiple different apps, and you may run these different apps on different devices. For example, you may be using a company phone, to run a different app that for you to do your freelancing work. So, and I mean, to be honest, how many of us are using the same password for so many different accounts, right? So this is also one of the very great vulnerabilities and inherited from all this polyworking. So yeah.
Right, and the password thing we'll talk about more in detail a little later down the line.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that the attacks have impersonated tools like Zoom, like Excel, like Outlook, things we take for granted today.
Yep.
CF, I think Zoom had some like 3.85 million attacks related to impersonations there. Why are these specific tools, great targets for cybercriminals?
Yeah, because these are where the people use it in a daily life, right? Digital nomads like us, we use Zoom, we use multiple different types of meeting tools. Today, even if you go to app stores, go to the Play Store, right? If you type a common name like Zoom, you're bound to find so many different types of different kind of Zoom apps. So, or try to find a way to entice users to download and use, because these apps are so popular. So criminal really just need to focus on popular apps. They don't need to waste time building fake apps with different names and all that. They just can ride on the popularity of those known apps, and all they need is just a sample of a population to click and install on these apps, and for them to gain access to corporate data.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I think sometimes we hear the word threat and access and impersonation, but we don't actually realize what it does on the back end and the trouble it causes. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean impersonation as in, let's say app impersonation. Cyber criminals would like to create apps that looks like the authentic apps. Like if you go to app stores today, do a search on Google Docs, right? Google Documents, Google Docs. You'll find a lot of other apps that has nothing to do with the official Google Docs. They may be provide some additional functions. They may be doing something else, some other different features, but that has nothing to do with the official Google Docs app, but they're inherently using the similar name. Now, the reason for that is also the ease of gaining adoption by the users, right? Because you're showing a common names, and the lower the defense, the consciousness of the users, and this is how cyber criminals like to do. I mean, take an easy path, prey on your the easy victims.
It's hacking the human side of the
Yeah.
equation.
Yes, absolutely. You see, essentially, when you talk about hacking, cyber attacks today, right? Cyber attackers, cyber criminals are so successful, are still thriving today, mainly not because of we have lack of technologies. In fact, we have so many technologies around us that help us to protect ourselves. Basically, the cyber criminals are not just hacking machines; they're hacking human. Human is always the weakest link in the entire cybersecurity scene.
Yeah, as much as technology evolves and things change, and all, the weakest link in the chain remains to be the person.
Human.
Interestingly, also as part of this paper, work tools and job platforms, beyond work tools, job platforms like LinkedIn also saw an increase in phishing attempts, over 650,000 there, CF. So even people looking for jobs, they're susceptible to these kind of things. So tell us more about from a impersonation of a platform like LinkedIn. How do these platforms serve as a gateway for attacks when you use this vector?
So this is also another good example. You see, why hackers do not send you a phishing email claiming coming from an ABC job site, instead using LinkedIn instead, right? It's because LinkedIn's already established the kind of a trustworthiness and professional, image to all of the recruiters, among the recruiters and employees. So that's why that's another good example. Hackers will always leverage on what is existing, available, and then use that to prey on the weaker ones. So LinkedIn, I think the most common attacks we see today is hackers impersonating as the recruiters, using an email that looks like LinkedIn and send to the job hunters and also employees to solicit information. And in a way, we also have noticed some of these phishing emails also contains link to malware, link to download malwares, and link to a fake LinkedIn website to trick the victims to key in their username and passwords. And there are multiple ways, but LinkedIn is again, because it's trustworthy, it gives a trustworthy kind of feel. The other thing very important about phishing email is that today hackers is kind of very easy to manipulate the from field in your email. That means whatever hackers want you to see in your from the sender email can be easily manipulated. So don't be surprised if you receive an email coming from, like for instance, CEO at linkedin.com with a valid domain name, valid the email address. But in essence, when you reply to the email, you may not reach the actual person. But then again, the hackers can manipulate the sender's name. So when you receive the phishing email, it will look almost genuine. Right? And this is the scary part.
Yeah, so CF, there, are we talking about, sometimes you get a phishing email, the name will be your boss, but when you click on it, you realize that the email is like abc at bfm.net, for example. Are we talking about the email itself looking proper?
Yeah, the email will look proper only when you reply to it, right? And then again, depending on how skillful are the hackers, they may register a domain name that almost identical to you. Instead of bfm.my, right? They maybe put bfm1.my or something like that.
All right. So it looks almost the same.
Yes, the display can be exactly genuine. That means using your email software or your webmail, you look at it from a sender point of view, the sender email address looks almost genuine.
Wow.
Yeah. Only when you reply it, then only you realize that, hey, you're replying to a different email address.
Is that a symptom of, because there are different characters that we can use on our keyboard, like from different dialects, or like, because this sounds like almost like it's breaking, like it would break the internet, no?
No, actually, our SMTP protocol, email protocol, is actually broken. Today I can send you an email with the sender name of CEO at Microsoft.com. The thing is, only when you reply to it, and then only you see my real my own real identity. The thing is this: many people who receive a phishing email, how often do you need to reply to the email? Because for phishing scams, the hackers typically just make it convenient for you to click on links, make it convenient for you to open attachments. So that's why usually when you don't reply, you don't have to reply the email, but at the same time, the email address, the fake email address, get displayed to you. It serve the purpose of the phishing hackers already.
Right, and ultimately, this all sounds like it's just about lowering your guard, right?
Yes. Yeah, we take things too easy nowadays.
And coming back to polyworking here, CF, why is polyworking notable for organizations when we talk about all this today?
Yeah, because Polyworking creates a lot of usage of different apps, different devices, and the polyworkers may need to connect to different types of networks. So it opens up something what we call the attack surface. It is giving a larger surface to the attackers, to the hackers to attack on. So versus conventionally when someone work in one job, one organization, you just stick with one laptop and everything that you do, you just come in and out from this laptop. So polyworking is far more complicated today. We are having a myriad of different tools, different IT devices. So that's why the attack surface is getting wider, broader, and is given attackers a much better opportunity to attack us.
CF, we'll talk about some solutions later down the line. For now, we got to go into a few messages. Folks, you've been listening to Enterprise Explores, the show where we help you navigate the ever-changing universe of business. And today I'm speaking with CF Fong, founder and executive chairman of LGMS Berhad, about the rise of Gen Z's polyworking trend and the alarming scale of cyber attacks it has triggered. I'm Roshan Kannasan. This is Enterprise Explores. Keep it here to BFM 89.9, the business station. BFM 89.9. Welcome back to Enterprise Explores. I'm Roshan Kannasan. Polyworking or juggling multiple jobs and gigs is apparently exposing both individuals and organizations to a wider digital attack surface more than ever before, according to Kaspersky in a new report. To help us get a better sense of how to navigate this, I'm speaking with CF Fong, founder and executive chairman of LGMS Berhad. We've established the new threat landscape, and now we're turning our attention to better understanding the risks, the human factors, and of course, key terminology like password hygiene and shadow IT as well. CF, I think we were talking a little bit about this earlier. Poor password hygiene and device overlap were key risk factors identified. Tell us more about how these behaviors increase the chance of a successful breach.
Yeah, like you see today, the most fundamental security controls that we are still using today is still passwords. Now, how many of us are still reusing the same password everywhere? On the same on different applications, different accounts, we're all using the same password. And some of these passwords may not be secure at all. I mean, we choose to be flexible, we choose to be simple, easy to remember because of so many different apps. We need to log in, different applications, different networks. So we tend to find something easy to remember, and that also increase the risk. And that's the reason why today with polyworking, the attack surface is larger, not only because we are accessing different apps, we're also using poor passwords. And many of the applications that we are using today, many of the network today, if we're just relying singly on password, it also poses a very high risk to us, because today, for computers to crack a password is take only split seconds. Especially now we're talking about quantum computing, where quantum computers are coming, and password is going to be something in the past. So that's why we need to find better ways to protect ourselves.
And before I ask about device overlap, so in terms of better passwords then, are we talking about two-factor authentication? Are we talking about passkeys? What is that? What does a better system look like?
Well, certainly we cannot rely just alone on password alone nowadays, right? We have to have some form of other third party method, also additional methods for us to authenticate ourselves to the application. So multi-factor authentication is the key survival factor today. It's no longer an option. So if you have an email account and if you are not using multi-factor authentication to log into your email account, that means you're waiting for hackers to take over your email accounts. Same with any other apps you're using. For example, if you're using e-wallets, you're using e-banking applications, if you have no use of MFA, multi-factor authentications, basically you are at risk. So today, MFA is already an essential, I wouldn't say an option, it's an essential part of our online cyber safety elements. So again, once you have multi-factor authentication, you also there are applications like passkeys. You basically lock down a device, so only certain device can use to authenticate yourself. So there are multiple ways, but today we have to have multi-factor authentications, bare minimum.
And sometimes even your phone passcode might be the most important, right? Because if people know that, they break into your phone, then they get access to all your other passwords. That's exactly a whole different bag of worms as well.
Yes. That's why today, we human mind is not designed, our human brain is not designed to remember so many different complex passwords. That's why relying on password will fail in certain point in time. That's why we need to look at technologies, what technology can help us to do, to help us to better apply cybersecurity better. So multi-factor authentication is the key essential part here. And then certainly there are new technologies coming up over time. But again, to date, what we need to do is at least have multi-factor authentication. I've been keep repeating this MFA because I have seen so many people's accounts, e-wallet, e-banking accounts get compromised because they do not have MFA.
Yeah, no, sometimes I think it's taken for granted, but really, no, we're still there's still not enough adoption of MFA. So for the record then, CF, outside of not having a multi-factor authentication process, what else does poor password hygiene look like today so that we can get clear on this?
A poor password basically means a password that's easy to guess, and easy to crack. If you're using something like ABC123, or maybe your cat's name, your dog's name, your pet's name, or date of birth, anything that's easy to remember and easy to crack, that it poses a risk to us, right? And at the same time, you see, we're also facing a great challenge because we are also logging into multiple apps, multiple accounts. We have to find a better way to have a unique password for different accounts. So that's why it is important for us to remember one thing. If we are using the same single password for all different accounts, which means if any of these accounts has a data leak, hacker got hold of the password, the hacker will have access to all of our different accounts. That's why if it's possible, I would like to share with everyone that there's a better tips on how to create a password that's unique to different accounts. So like for instance, if you have let's say two email accounts, let's say Gmail or Yahoo Mail, for instance. Now in your password, you can have something like this. Instead of having ABC123 for two different accounts, you may have I love Gmail as one of the password for Gmail, or I love Yahoo for the password for Yahoo. So having this formula in mind, so every time when you log on to different apps, different accounts, they'll basically give you some kind of hint of what password you may be using or you are using, right? So use the name of the applications and incorporate it in part of your password as part of the formula. And this is just one idea. Of course, just having that itself is not enough. You have to make sure your password is strong. If you use a password like I love Gmail, it is too simple to crack. So, and you have to find something like, for example, if you have a simple password like I love Gmail, right? So just convert those vowels, A-E-I-O-U, to symbols, and then you have a very strong and perfect password.
So it's almost like having a sort of encryption for your own, that you only know the key to, right? So
yes, you have to have your own formula, own formula of coming up with a password. And this is a very common, easy to remember formula I've been telling everybody. So for different accounts that you're using, different apps you're using, use the name of that account as part of your password so you can remember, and convert the vowels and or numbers to symbols to different symbols.
Yeah.
So that will help you create a strong password.
Perhaps even switching certain, like the first and second letter you want to switch around. Basically something that works for you from a system perspective.
Yeah.
But it's also secure.
Yes. Yep.
Now, let's jump over the device overlap. I wanted to just get a better understanding of what this entails and why this causes problems.
The device, as in what kind of device? You mean the...
So, in terms of if we have too many devices that we're using in...
Yes. Yeah, for instance, now, you just compare it with the conventional working environment, right? We are given a company laptop. We do everything, our emails and our communications, everything on the one single company laptops. But today, we are allowing work from home. Employees may be having their own personal devices. They may or may not want to access company emails on the devices. So with multiple devices are being used, for one or single or multiple purposes, it is not easy to secure one device already, let alone you're talking about different types of devices like a phone, a tablet, or even additional laptops, additional personal computers that is at home. So that's why when you have multiple devices, your responsibility also multiply, or your responsibility of securing the devices also multiply. So different devices will require patching, they require updates. You have to make sure that all of the different devices are up to date. You have protection, antivirus installed on your PC, on your personal computers, on your personal use computer, and also on your company's computers. Basically the responsibility just get multiplied.
Yeah. Now, one thing that was also noted was that multiple generations, including Gen Z, are facing this so-called digital fatigue because they've got multiple devices, multiple platforms. There's a lot going on in a lot of different places. How does this human factor make it even more vulnerable to phishing and malware? I think we touched upon this a little bit.
Yeah, because we are so fatigued with all the protection, all the reminders, especially like what we are doing, all the reminders. We're so fatigued with all these things. So naturally, we will be so... our patience is getting shorter. That's the fact. Today, when we receive a message, we just it is so easy to convince somebody by just sending a simple short message. That's how fake news works nowadays anyway. So because our patience level is getting so low, and then that also helps for the attackers to launch their phishing attack. They just need to blast out enough large enough populations, then they can catch the victims. So the change of human behavior also plays a part in cybersecurity today. And why there are still so many people fall prey to online scams, to love scams, to online purchase scams and all that? Because we are really, our patience are actually diminishing, right? Every day as we speak, our patience is getting diminished. We like to believe things that we see instantly. We like to believe things that we hear instantly without really sit down properly, process it before we make a decision.
There was another term that was used here, right? It's called shadow IT, which is the use of unverified productivity apps. Tell us more about this and the dangers of this app, of this kind of utility for corporates in particular, right? For organizations.
Yeah, shadow IT has become an emerging issue today because now we have a bring your device to office to work kind of policies, right? So, but shadow IT, strictly speaking, referring to those IT devices or IT apps that are not sanctioned by the corporate to be used in a corporate. For instance, let's say by corporate policy, we should only use company laptop to access emails. But if you use your personal phone or unnotified, unsanctioned tablets to access it without notifying the IT department, these are classified as shadow IT. So yes, this is kind of a growing issue. That's why, for corporate standpoint, we need to start identifying shadow IT devices within our corporate, and we need to take action and at least to have policies to let employees know what can be done and what not to be done.
Yeah, we'll talk about policies after the break, but right now, just to iron this down, tell us about the consequences for businesses that suffer these kind of breaches due to polyworking digital habits.
Well, I can give you some good examples in real life cases that happened before. Some of the cases that we handle as part of our computer crime investigations. These companies, they have established very well planned and well executed cybersecurity policies. They have proper firewalls, defense, everything set up properly. But they got hacked eventually because one of the employees, just because one single employee out of hundreds brought in their personal laptop, which has a malware infection happen. So when this laptop get access to the corporate network, and that's how the malware get into the company. And this is why the danger of shadow IT, because if some of these devices are not sanctioned by the corporate, it shouldn't be brought into the corporate and connect to the corporate network. And this one single employee and one single laptop brought down the entire organization. And this is how scary shadow IT it is.
Yeah. We'll get into the policies that need to be done after a few messages, CF. Folks, you're listening to Enterprise Explores, the show where we help you navigate the ever-changing universe of business, money, and technology. And today I've been speaking with cybersecurity expert CF Fong about the critical factors behind polyworking-related cyber attacks, including things like poor hygiene, device overlap, and digital fatigue. I'm Roshan Khanna, and this is Enterprise Explores. So we will be back in just a bit. So keep it here to BFM 89.9, the business station.
You're listening to Enterprise Explores, brought to you by MDX Summit 2025, powered by MDEC and Synapse.
BFM 89.9, welcome back to Enterprise Explores. I'm Roshan Khanna, and today we're exploring polyworking and the risks it creates for organizations from a cyber perspective. Polyworking, or juggling multiple jobs and gigs, has been linked to over 6.1 million cyber attacks in the last 6 months, exposing individuals and organizations to a wider digital attack surface, which CF Fong, founder and executive chairman of LGMS, has been helping us get a better understanding of so far. So CF, we've laid out the risks. Now it's time to take a look at the path forward. What are the key policy and security measures businesses and organizations can implement to better manage these risks involved with polyworking?
Yeah, for many corporates today, we need to look at the trend, because the trend is inevitable. People will bring their own device to the company, to the corporate. So we need to create something that's flexible and easy to adopt for the employees to follow. So the key success factor for cybersecurity is actually simplicity. As long as you can create something simple for easy for people to follow, then that's how security will work. And today we have to accept the fact that employees will be bringing different devices into corporate, and whether we like it or not, we just have to accept the fact. And at the same time, we need to adopt to the trend where we need to start observing what are the growing threats on all these kinds of different devices and incorporate those knowledge into our policies. So policy policy drafting is an ongoing process today. So we have to have the mindset that on and off, we need to review our corporate policies and see whether the policies is sufficient enough to provide the guidance, the necessary guidance and guidelines to the employees while they are bringing their devices into the office. And these devices are still okay. The scarier devices are those that you do not know and that impose certain risks. For example, if employees decide to set up a Wi-Fi access point in the company, and this kind of Wi-Fi access point will provide much greater risk. And we have seen that happen before in real life. Employees bringing their modem, a 5G modem into the office and start, going out to the internet, bypassing the company's firewall rules, bypassing all the rest of the security controls. And these are the shadow IT issues that, that's more scary, and it requires more stringent technology assistance to detect, to scan for this shadow IT. These kind of shadow ITs will really bypass whatever policy we are set for. So we need assistance of technologies.
So I'll ask you more about how to manage the shadow IT problem in more depth in a second. But you mentioned the importance of simplicity. Why is simplicity important, CF?
Yeah, creating something simple, easy to follow, so people can have easy path to do whatever we are giving the directions to. Because if something is too complex, too complicated, even difficult to understand, right, and things will not work. Right, so that's the key thing about cybersecurity. You have to keep it simple, so everyone and every different level at any different levels can understand and comprehend, and that's how things will work.
And but these sound like such sophisticated, complex problems, right? Is simplicity enough to tackle them?
Yes, just like, for example, I give you one example of how to set a strong password right just now. So keep it simple, the way how we describe things, less technical jargons, less abbreviations, no abbreviations, and keep things in layman term. And, this is how cybersecurity should work.
Now, just as we come to the close in this entire conversation that we've been having, right? For companies, what do you feel is the most effective way for them to address the shadow IT concern and encourage employees to use secure approved apps, or at least to declare that here, these are the technologies that I'm using? How do we move forward here?
I think the key part is the awareness. Essentially whatever policies, technologies we have, right? If the user awareness is not there, then nothing will work. So the first priority, if I have to advise organizations today, is to create high security awareness amongst the employee. Let the employees aware about the different kind of cyber threats and what kind of potential vulnerabilities can they bring in if they do not follow the policies. So the first start with an awareness first. Secondly, we will suggest organizations today start looking at scanning for shadow IT devices within the corporate. So scanning is a continuous process, this continuous assessment to find out if there's any shadow IT devices found in the organizations, and also continuously scan for vulnerabilities, weaknesses within the organizations. This is how we stay abreast of all the cyber attacks. Cyber attacks happen today. Infiltration happens today is because that we are having lack of scanning. We do not know what kind of vulnerabilities that we have. We do not know what kind of weaknesses that we have. Therefore, the hackers actually found out for us. The hackers leverage on the weaknesses and hack into organizations. So these are the key two things I would say. Again, employee awareness, cybersecurity awareness. Second thing is continuous scanning for vulnerabilities within organizations.
And what does that scanning and looking for vulnerabilities look like in practice, CF?
Well, scanning basically referring to having a process or a mechanism in place, a technology in place to help you to continuously scan for loopholes, scan for weaknesses. Think of it like having a much stronger kind of antivirus to go out and hunt for loopholes, to scan for loopholes. There are certain technology terms that in the cybersecurity world that we use called vulnerability assessment, where you continuously look for loopholes within an organization, technology loopholes. So these also depending on how complex is the organization. If organizations are hosting a lot of different servers, different applications within an organization, so obviously attack surface is larger, then the scanning process will take longer and it's going to be more complex. So, but at least bare minimum, start to do awareness, create awareness, and then followed by security scanning.
And based on perhaps what you've seen work or what you've seen not work, any tips in terms of how to do that awareness with employees?
Yeah, security awareness employees, basically you have to make it like part of your culture. Now, I share with you one real experience that we have done with some organizations before. I remember I used to visit the insurance company very often to carry out security assessment for them. And every time when we go there, people don't check our identity. We just simply, because we are wearing suits and bring briefcases, so people would think that we are some kind of VIP. They don't check on us. They don't stop us when we walk straight to the CEO's office. So this is part of a culture. So the thing is, when we notice this, we're starting to advise the client, hey, you need to really set up some guidelines for the employees to follow, because people may get intimidated by just looking at people wearing suits. So now we by doing so, we're starting to craft up policies, craft up the process, and start teaching everyone to be more alert. So if there's any strangers walking towards the CEO office, they have to do certain things, they have to ask certain questions. So it has to be part of the culture. And culture does not form overnight. It has to take time, but we have to have some kind of a structured process to cultivate that kind of culture.
And I guess part of that is also that the need for trust between the employees and the employers as well, right? Because you want them to trust that you're doing the right thing, but you also need to have that trust in them that you will do what's right for security perspective as well. So how have you seen, or how would you advise companies to do that balance, right, between employee trust and privacy and the need for oversight and security, especially given polyworking?
Absolutely. I think the trust is very important, because if people feel like they are being spied on, they're being monitored, I mean, they have a lot of resistance, and then shadow IT problem will always be there. So I think the key thing for corporate management to think about is to be transparent. The ultimate thing is, if we can be absolutely transparent, letting the employees know that, hey, look, we are also monitoring the network. We are looking at any new devices being plugged in. Be transparent, be upfront, and let the employees know what are being monitored, and the rationale behind it is also very important. So people will know that, hey, because we are monitoring, because we are fear of having shadow IT devices connecting to a network and creating a havoc in the network. So the rationale is important, and I think being transparent upfront is very key to the success of this.
Now, we've talked about a lot of things, and of course, everyone should be paying attention to everything we talked about. But if there's one thing you'd want to highlight again, what would it be?
I would say to many business owners today, right, they still think cybersecurity is an IT problem, right? Essentially, cybersecurity is no longer an IT problem. It is a business survival problem. Today, if we are still not being proactive in cybersecurity, we still don't think cybersecurity can be a business disruptors, right? We need to recheck on recheck the reality again, because there are many organizations today get brought down of operations and of their reputations and trust of the customers just because they suffer a cyber attack. And today's cyber attack, you may recover from the cyber attack, it takes time, but to recover from your customers' trust, to recover your image, it will take almost forever, because you have been hacked before, people will have the kind of perception. So that's why for all business owners, the message is that cybersecurity can be a business disruptor, can be a business problem. It's no longer an IT problem.
And to close us off, CF, what else are you watching in the cybersecurity space?
Well, we are looking at AI-driven attacks that now look incredibly real and is incredibly convincing. Ransomware is still hitting the roof. I mean, the ransomware is not going any lesser ransomware cases. And another thing is supply chain attacks is rising. Supply chain attacks means that today we no longer ask ourselves whether we are secure or not. We have to ask our suppliers, are they secure or not? Because if they are not secure, they got hacked, they can lead the hackers to us. So supply chain attack, these three things.
And all three sound like potential shows for the future for sure. CF, thank you for your time, man.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you.
Folks, you've been listening to Enterprise Explores, the show where we help you navigate the ever-changing universe of business, money, and technology. I've been speaking with CF Fong, founder and executive chairman of LGMS Berhad, dissecting the emerging cyber risk of polyworking and the strategies that businesses and organizations must adopt to secure their digital ecosystems. As CF was just saying, this is no longer just an IT problem, it is a business problem. If you missed any part of the conversation, you can catch the podcast later today on our website at www.bfm.my or download the BFM app. I'm Roshan Kanasan. This has been Enterprise Explores on BFM 89.9, the business station.